Click the button.
Just
Welcome to your awakening. Please take all as your reality is adjusted.
Welcome to your face mask. Please remain calm while we put a muzzle across your face. Hello, welcome back once again, folks. Get me screen share sorted out in a second. Was I actually even screen sharing that then? Yeah? Oh, yeah, I was, wasn't I? That one. I'm going to screen share that one in a moment. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. See a couple of people in the chat room. The Rebel, hello. And Alan McVicker, hello, hello. And Dottie and Dean, Society of Spectacle, and Lynn, hello. So says hello. Yeah, I'm going to play a tune again. I'm going to play another one from that Media Bear channel because I think I thought this was quite good. I know it's a little bit more mellow. It's not as sort of in your face as the We Will Mock You one that I played last week. But I think it's highly appropriate at the moment. We'll see, though. The tide may be turning rapidly. I'll say as well before I get on with stuff, I've still got a bit of a blocked up nose. So if I sniff and snortle at you, I apologise in advance. And it might not be a very long show. We'll see how long I can put up with trying to speak through a blocked up nose. It doesn't help. Fizz, hello. And Cardini, hello. Lots of Tatro, hello, mate. Glad you made it. And okay, let's screen share this and I'll stick a bit of tunage on for 5 minutes or less. I think it's only about 4 minutes, this one. But I think it's been quite appropriate with a lot of the crap that's been happening recently. We shall see how things develop. Yeah, listen to this.
Said I wear my face mask in the car. I wear my face mask when I walk. I wear my face mask in my bed. Said I wear my face mask when I eat. I wear my face mask when I sleep. I wear my face mask. I can't breathe.
It's on the Media Bear channel. I played another one of his tracks last week as well. The We Will Mock You. Go and check them out if you're interested. If you want a bit of useful satire and parody to help get a point across to people. Hopefully you can hear me all right still. Hello everyone who's just joined the chat. Is it Swale or Swally? Is it? I'm not sure. It depends how far up north you are, isn't it? Swale or Swally, hello. New being, hello. Quick scroll down. Krishna, hello. And the usual suspects are in there. Taz, hello, and Ridiculizer. Gonna have to find some more tracks as well, some more music. I'm happy to play whatever style of music, as long as it's subject matter that's relevant. I don't mind if it's a parody or if it's an original track or something like that, but as long as it's free to play, no copyright restrictions, and it's relevant to the kind of stuff that we're often talking about, that's great. But yeah, if you know more, let me know. I've got a playlist full of a lot of music as well. Some of it is corporate copyrighted stuff though, so I suppose I could still play it. Stewie, hello. You're too sexy for me, lad. Cool. I could play it because the way it's going, we'll see just how long we go with being allowed to carry on YouTube. Over the last few days, a few more channels have been scrubbed. Max Egan has been scrubbed completely now. All of his channels have basically just been deleted. So he sent a message out on his website newsletter thing saying basically he's given up on YouTube. So if you want to find Max, go and check his website, thecrowhouse.com, and you'll find links to all the other platforms that he's on. So, things like BitChute and Library and whatever. A lot of these new platforms like brand new Tube. Peter said he set up an account last week. Pete's not here at the moment. He's busy with other stuff. But yeah, we'll see how long we get to carry on with GooTube. And I'm tempted to just play whatever, share whatever videos and music, because it seems a bit inevitable that at some point this platform is going to get restricted or completely cut off for me to make use of in this kind of fashion. But this weekend, certainly the last few days, you probably guessed with the recent date anniversary that has not long gone past. Mentioned it a little bit over the last few shows on Monday and the reality chat on the Wednesday night. We had the 19th anniversary of 9/11, or the intimidating day of the great disappearing of buildings in other parts of the world, or not in the USA, but you know what I mean. It's definitely had a global effect, no matter where it was on the planet. So that seemed to slip past, buried under most of the COVID propaganda and media, as well as the fires, the rioting, the protest marches that are happening all over the world don't really get much of a mention unless they're associated to particular causes such as Antifa or BLM, or if they're an opportunity for the media to use them as a scapegoat and say, oh, look at all them right-wing neo-Nazi crazy people that believe in conspiracy theories. Yeah, they've been showing the public a lot of that kind of thing about the protests. You could just take that headline and apply it to a picture of Parliament, so the same thing. And the main cause I'm just going to point at is basically just to reinforce that, to make that point that we're well beyond the Rubicon now. I've been saying this for a while recently. The 9/11 anniversary brought back that element of the Twin Towers. There's a reason that they picked that as a target. Well, it's multiple reasons, but the fact that there was the two of them was a major reason to include them in their planning. And it's at a time when they've, in the last few months, certainly the last several weeks, maybe adding up to a couple of months now, they've been making mention of the risk of a twin-demic by the combination of the second wave spike of the COVID bullshit combined with seasonal flu, because we're now about to enter flu season again. And please don't forget that this time period in autumn is the harvest period. So what is it they're planning to harvest? What are they planning to reap? So it just made me think of that combination of this period of the year, which we have sort of made mention of this kind of element many times in the past in relation to the 9/11 event, was there is a reason why they chose this time of the year, September, which actually means 7. Because don't forget the Gregorian calendar was split and they added extra months in the middle to celebrate Julius and Augustus and whatever. So September should have been originally the 7th month. That's why it's Sept. Sept is 7. So why did they pick the Sept number? There's reasons connected to that and the harvest period, etc. So it's not exactly coincidence theory that, lo and behold, during the current crisis that we're supposedly going through, there is this culminating effect that is happening around this time. That culminating effect is them claiming there's going to be a second spike and all this shit, when the evidence is literally piling up over the top of the dam that the number of deaths, the mortality rate, has literally dropped to almost nothing. In some parts of the world, their rate has gone to nothing. I think Scotland has had days when there's been 0 reported deaths. Other places have had 0 reported deaths per day, etc. And hospitalizations have gone down, but the testing rates and the reported cases rate has kept going up. This is what they're claiming is the spike. And I've banged on a lot the last few weeks about how that is just a complete fucking sham of how it's like, oh, we've got all this testing going on, but there seems to be a second spike. I wonder why there's a second spike. Maybe it's because you're testing more people, so you're getting more test results, and you're testing for something that nearly everybody has, the coronavirus, which is the common cold and flu virus mostly. So, of course, you're getting more results and you're getting a spike because you're deliberately looking for that evidence so that you can use it as a justification and blah, blah, blah. And on it goes. And over this week, I was expecting that it was going to be mainly that there'd be a fair bit of the kind of remembrance propaganda. Maybe I should claim that as a terminology, remembrance propaganda, when they take historical events like the Great Going Away of Buildings and turn it into a regular repeated propaganda event to reinforce that new mythology into the public consciousness. I thought it was going to be mainly that kind of stuff over the week and weekend. But then Bojo comes out and makes the announcements of the rule of six. I put in my notes the reign of six, spelt R-E-I-G-N, as in the reign of a monarch or the reign of a demon king, whatever. Yeah. And it's Corona crown, remember? Corona is the crown, the coronation of the chakra at the top of your energetic being. This is all not coincidental, in my opinion. I'll say in my opinion, just so it's a caveat for all the usual people that get frustrated with that kind of statement. So don't worry, placate yourself, dear. This is just a stage play that they're putting in front of you, but it's a stage play where it has literal mortal effects on the audience that are watching it. Yeah, that's like the Circus Maximus, where the gladiators occasionally turning to look up in the bleachers and throwing an occasional javelin at somebody and killing someone in the audience. Yeah, but the audience is still stuck in their seat watching. But this is the level of crazy that we are now being pushed into. The rule of six is just bizarrely meaningless, other than it's got that number in it yet again. Yeah, I'm just going to leave it at that. You can sit and ponder, like, why are they so obsessed with this number six? There is nothing scientific whatsoever to do with that attribution. Same as the distancing. They could have said 2 meters, or what would be roughly approximately 12 feet. But no, they said six feet. Sorry. Yeah, that's 2 meters, 6'3", isn't it? Or 6'6". They picked the number supposedly arbitrarily in a cabinet meeting. And in the same manner, they've now picked that number again arbitrarily to determine how many people can actually gather together at once. And supposedly this is going to have an effect on the virus. This virus is getting more and more intelligent day after day, allegedly, according to their conspiracy theory, because it is a conspiracy theory. There is no evidence to back it up in the way that they claim. So what is going to be the next six? I've been racking my mind trying to think about that over the weekend. It's like, well, they've got the 2 sixes. How are they going to get the third? What is it? What element is it that's going to give them the third? Could it be that we have to be in lockdown for 6 months? That may happen pretty soon, which is why in the subtitle I put brace yourselves. And I'm not saying this to be a fearmonger, doom-monger, all that usual accusatory strawman bullshit. I'm speculating. I don't know this for definite. But it seems highly likely that, considering the obvious objective facts of the data and the argumentation now being made against things such as the lockdown and the rule of six bullshit and all these other rules that they're trying to bring in, there is now more and more data to show that the justifications for these things are just nonsense. They bunk them. So why are you going ahead with it? That is going to build up to a pressure point. I've talked in recent episodes about it. It's going over the top of the dam now. We're starting to hit that breaching point. Now we're seeing more and more of what you would call mainstream personalities, or what I would call mainstream personalities. Yeah, there was one today, some woman off Loose Women TV show on This Morning program or something like that. These kind of people, these kind of celebrities and personalities are now starting to ask some fairly good questions about this kind of stuff that's happening. Why is it that the government, the state system, is now trying to implant or foreshadow to suggest that the second wave and this new spike is happening? Therefore, if we're not careful, we might have to get back into another lockdown. And if they start a lockdown now in September, or maybe they'll wait until we hit October, Halloween and all that lot's coming soon, maybe, they'll start it about then. But if they do start it about then, that means they're not going to let it up until next year because of the flu season effect. There's going to be at least 3+ months if they do another lockdown, possibly, because last time they claimed it would just be 2 weeks, and yet here we are now. So brace yourselves in that subtitle to try and put across the point that we're at a time period where their game is very, very much on the edge of the knife, on the edge of the cliff. They know that they're pushing the lie and the delusion of the lie to quite an extreme now, which means one misstep and they're going to topple. They're going to be pushed off that cliff edge. In that kind of situation, that makes them, those that are perpetuating or trying to push the lie, more dangerous, because they will be more likely to take actions to perpetuate the power of their position or their position of power, because they know that the lie itself is being questioned quite hard. There's too much evidence built up. A lot more of the public are starting to say, no, this is my line in the sand now. You've taken the piss too much. I'm drawing a line now, no further. So they could very well attempt to do something to break that. That it's not exactly an impasse, but in terms of them keeping the lie going, keeping the plate spinning, they need to add a bit more energy into the stick under that plate to keep it going. So brace yourselves. We're heading into flu season and the harvest season, and this is often when they do that kind of setup. Again, reference 9/11. That was when they used that same kind of methodology again. They created a mass event that harvested or culled a lot of people, a lot of living beings had their energy taken, and that energy has been used through the propaganda over the last 2 decades to push the New World Order concept onto an unwitting general populace. I know some of the populace want it, supposedly. The majority of those that say they want it are pretty much unaware of what it actually is that they're getting themselves involved in. But for the majority, they just think it's going to be good because things will be more convenient. They'll get to spend more time on their tablet playing little games or just chatting with each other, just talking crap, whatever. It'll be more convenient. We'll have more time to do nothing. But that is the worst kind of temptation. It's like you're not offering the monkey a banana, you're offering him the illusion of a banana. By the time he gets his hands on it and realizes it's just an illusion, he's not going to be happy. But anyway, a couple of stories I'm going to mention. Screen share for in a sec when I'll get it sorted. It's just to sort of reiterate some of these points of how it's certainly built up far beyond reaching ahead now. It's overtopped the dam. It's now gushing over the top, and chunks of the dam are starting to break off and fly off down the valley. This is the dam breaking. This is on Breitbart. Came out on the 10th this month, 10th of September 2020. I'm not exactly keen on Breitbart. It's not a site I check regularly in any way at all, unless an article comes up that I want to look at. But this is more just the fact that Delingpole is somebody who's been in journalism for a long time. He's not exactly just a nobody from out of nowhere who's just writing an opinion piece that suits their propaganda. I guess there probably could be a fair bit of propaganda in this, but for me, it was just to make the point. I'll read the headline out for people who can't see the image on the Breitbart website. Delingpole, Boris Johnson has led a fascist coup against the United Kingdom. And that really caught my attention because it's like, thank you, at last, somebody on a fairly mainstream website. I know, people may argue it's not exactly like the legacy media of BBC and Reuters and whatever, but it's a site that's been around for quite a while and it's very well established, and a lot of people visit it and read their articles. So, it's not like it's a tiny little backwater alternative media website. And they've got a journalist calling it out for literally exactly what it is. Yeah, and I thought the first paragraph pretty much encapsulates the whole thing. I'll read it out. If from the title, Boris Johnson has led a fascist coup against the United Kingdom. If that sounds like an exaggeration, just ask yourself how you'd have felt a year ago or even 6 months ago. I wonder if you might have been listening to us, because we've said this kind of phrase a few times on these shows and on the reality chat on a Wednesday night. Yeah, how would you have felt a year ago or even 6 months ago if you'd been told a British government, a Tory government at that, was planning to institute a 10 p.m. curfew, ban gatherings of more than 6 people, impose daily immunity tests before you were allowed to go out about your business, employ Stasi-like volunteer marshals, COVID cops, to ensure public compliance, and warning that it might even have to cancel Christmas? Your first reaction would probably have been impossible. That's the kind of thing that excitable foreigners engage in, never the phlegmatic, rational British, and certainly never ever so long as there is a conservative government in power. I think Breitbart is mainly a conservative site, so, maybe they were just a bit more triggered because it's a conservative government that is enacting all this bullshit. But this is something that we here, I say we, because it's not just me, multiple of us have said this same thing. If you were told about what's happening now a year ago, you would have called me a crazy conspiracy theorist. Many people have, because I said this kind of shit would happen. And now it's happening. So do you not see that this is a fascist regime? It will eventually become another form, but at the moment it's using the modality of fascism. And the only way they could have got away with doing that is by carrying out a coup, a bloodless internal coup that was about inserting and removing certain people from certain positions of power. They get the right people in the right position so that they can steer what the government is doing deliberately to enable them to set up this situation. More confirmation, as I say, in a fairly mainstream publication. They're online, but kind of like, publication. And then the day after, let me just flick that tab over. The day after, we get this in the Daily Mail, which is on Daily Mail Online. Downing Street digs in over rule of 6. Number 10 refuses to bow to calls from Tory MPs for England to follow Wales and Scotland in making children exempt from the new grotesque restriction. The argument's already starting, but the fact is at the moment they have actually put it in place, and they are going to have the COVID cops out on the streets to try and supposedly enforce this, even though they have no powers, and they will be working for a private company, just basically intimidating people on the streets. Sounds remarkably like the brown shirts, but the one this Daily Mail article is very long-winded. Basically just lays out the fact that they're all arguing with each other. Look, they're all arguing with each other. But the main thing that I wanted to pick out of this, which I thought is, to me, maybe my point of view, but I thought this is probably one of the most significant things about this, in a paragraph further, part way down the article. Senior Conservative figures are furious the absolutely grotesque rule is being introduced without any debate in the House of Commons, as they claim the restriction is worse than the disease itself. I mean, claiming the restriction is worse than the disease itself is a bit, here's the horse, there's the gate, buy horse. Yeah, it's far too late them saying that now. We've been saying this kind of shit from near enough the start of all this crap. But it's just the fact that it says without any debate. And what's the definition of a dictatorship? It's where one or a small group of insiders, a cadre, a cabal, a cabinet of people that just make up whatever rules they want, diktats. That's where the phrase comes from, dictatorship, or word comes from. Diktats, saying, oh, we want all the public to hop around on one foot. That's how you protect yourselves from the virus, folks. Hop around on one foot, because the virus can't get people who hop around. That's a diktat. Yeah, if they can put rules through and claim that they're then going to have the judiciary, the police, etc., enforcing those rules, fining people, maybe even arresting people, but there's no debate about it at all in the House of Commons. That is the definition of a dictatorship. Now, I've sort of made similar commentary recently about other elements of things that have been happening, where it is the definition of fascism, of corporatism, as Mussolini liked to say. It should more rightly be called corporatism. The things they've been doing are the definition of corporatism, which is fascism. And now this kind of stuff that's happening with this rule of six suddenly being implemented. I think the mask mandate, the way that was introduced, was pretty much the same. These are diktats coming from the cabinet, and they're claiming that they're only doing it because they've been advised by the scientists such as Whitty and the SAGE team, etc. Yeah, and they dictate that these things will occur. I think that's pretty much, enough as far as I'm concerned. More than enough. I've been talking about this kind of stuff for years, trying to point to the things that I could see, the patterns, the occurrences, the events, the agendas, but things building a pathway towards fascism. I know many people, and certainly this serves the purpose of the state, they want people to pick a political left or right and say, oh no, it can't be fascism, this is going to be communism. And then vice versa, that people pick the left side and say, oh no, this is fascism. When it comes down to it, it's all still tyranny. Communism and fascism are different modalities, different methods of dominating a population. Has slightly different effects on how your society runs. In communism, everybody's supposed to be equal, and everybody gets the same share of everything and all that kind of stuff. Yeah. In fascism, you're meant to still have the illusion of choice, but all the choices that are presented to you are already chosen for you by somebody else sat in a corporate office somewhere, who says, oh, all the people in England really like cheesy Doritos. So from now on, we'll make cheesy Doritos available for the whole of England, but there won't be any other Doritos available. Because cost efficiency says if we concentrate on one particular flavor and brand, that's going to get the largest market share profit. So we just won't offer any other choices. And there won't be any chance of competition, because, again, that state control system already has its fingers in all the pies of the production chain, energy production, resource production. Everything is controlled by that same group. So therefore, again, the competition of alternate choices will not be allowed unless it suits their purpose. So fascism is just the same as communism, but it disguises itself more with an illusion of choice. As George Carlin says, there is no choice. There's just the illusion of you having things to select in, the consumer paradise. Do you want a cheeseburger? Do you want a Whopper? Do you want a Big Mac? Yeah. Do you want Coke or Pepsi? Do you want Trump or Biden? Do you want Bojo or Starmer, isn't he? I had to think then because he's sort of like a non-entity almost. These are the illusions of choice to disguise the functioning of the tyranny behind that illusion. Like the classic Wizard of Oz behind the curtain, with the levers on his machine painted red or blue. Did it matter? Because by his manipulation of them, he affected the people's perception of him and created the illusion of the great wizard that controlled everything. Whereas really it was, he was pulling on both of the knobs and levers, made use of both sides of the fence kind of thing to manipulate people. Two cheeks of the same arse, two wings of the same bird, etc., etc., etc. So we're far beyond the argumentation of, they're trying to bring in communism, they're trying to bring in fascism. At the moment, I'm defining it as fascism because that's the thing that stands out quite clearly. I wouldn't call it communism yet. It's not even quite socialism. It's certainly getting there rapidly. There's a lot of elements of socialism already in place. But it's not really what you could call a socialist worldwide system yet. But to serve their purposes of the change of paradigm to fulfill Agenda 21, Agenda 2030, and the great reset, the great switch over from the way the world used to work as an anarchic collective of independent sovereign nation states that may have had blocks of alliances amongst them, but they were still, there was an illusion of choice. No, now it will be the one world system under the remit of a centralized government that will make use of technology to manage the resources of the planet. So you will have a carbon tax credit and a biometric ID and an electronic wallet and all that good stuff that we've talked about. I'm saying good in a sarcastic manner. But I think we're far beyond the questioning of, is this what I think it is? Maybe that's just my point of view, but I think a lot more of the public are starting to actually tweak now because this rule of six, reign of six, the mask wearing, the contradictions that just go on and on, it's just become ridiculous now. It needs a new definition. Maybe it's just better to call it insanity because really that's what it is. They're trying to persuade people to accept something that normally you would call insane. So they call it the new normal, which basically just means that it's abnormal. They're trying to get you to accept the abnormal. Nah, no means no. But that's just a little snapshot of some of the stuff that's happened over the past few days, the past week, that is another step forward in the long-running narratives of those bigger agendas of bringing in the New World Order. I'm being sure to use a lot of very particular phrases because I'm hoping that the Google beast will take note of the fact that, I'm still here. I still keep repeating the same keywords that I know you have blacklisted, and yet I'm still here. Yeah. If they won't be upfront about why is it that they seem to be erasing everybody else and yet I'm still here saying the same stuff? See if we can draw them out on that point. What else was I was going to mention? I suppose it's sort of just a general acknowledgement, which is something we've done, again, multiple times over the years about solutions. I mentioned this on Wednesday's reality chat. It's going to be probably the main question that's going to come up now for a lot of people, because I think we are going through that breaching of the dam phase. The levee is breaking. More and more people are getting to the stage of breaking the illusion of the bullshit of the lie that keeps being repeated to them by the media. It's not too many steps. It's a fairly rapid succession process of the thinking process that they'll go through once they breach that denial barrier. And it very quickly gets to the point of like, well, what can I do about it? What do I do? What do I do now? And that's where you've got to start looking at and thinking about and talking about what potential solutions are there to this situation. And it's not necessarily just one situation. It can be a combination of things happening that need a fix of some kind. This is something where, for now, I prefer to stick to things that are a little sort of esoteric, because I think in this great change that is happening, that those who think they are in positions of power are so desperate to try and keep control of, keep hold of the reins so they can steer where this energy is going in this great change. Most of it, the majority of it, certainly the core foundation of it, is the spiritual change that is happening. And that is a global effect. It's not just because you follow a particular religion or you're spiritually inclined or whatever. You can be an absolute materialist atheist if you want, but you're still going to feel the same kind of energetic shift and change. You might not recognize some of it, or it might actually make you feel a bit uncomfortable to have the sensation or the feelings that you're experiencing without a good materialistic explanation for it. I do think this is part of why for the last few years they brought in some of the concepts like the simulation theory, because they know that for a good portion of the population that have been indoctrinated into a hard materialist perception of reality, they're going to struggle to cope with the change that is happening because they don't have any spiritual muscle to deal with what they're experiencing. Their spiritual, call it spiritual muscle, has basically been so atrophied through lack of use that when the energetic spiritual effects start entering their lives, start emanating into their experience, they'll be more confused. They'll be driven into more psychological problems because they've never experienced this kind of stuff before. They don't recognize that feeling. Why is it that I'm feeling this way? It's like, no, there's no explanation for that. I can't compartmentalize that into a linear psychological point of view. It doesn't work. But that's why, as I say, I prefer to include in when I do these talks and broadcasts, include a certain amount of that spiritual element to things. And one of the things I was going to say was about the win is in the winning. I know it sounds circular. It's deliberately meant to sound circular because it is circular in a way. The perception that everything's going to crash into catastrophe is only really relevant to the system itself. In that Phoenix process where every so often they destroy the system so that they can build the new version on top. It's like erasing your old hard drive so you can install the latest operating system. When they do that, they know full well that there's a spiritual effect on the mass of the population that for most people, they don't know how to deal with it. So they look to leaders, and those leaders can be used to steer them in whatever direction. And that's basically how they build things in a societal sense. They persuade people to follow one banner or another that takes them to their building site where they're required to work. But that process of that switchover, the destruction of the old to bring in the new, they need to keep control of that so that the new that is built is in the form that they choose, the new Babylon, the new technocratic world order that they want to institute. that is their chosen direction. And I'll speak from my point of view, but I think this is true for a lot of people that come to this kind of information or look at this kind of perception, maybe see things in a similar fashion. That's their point of view. From my point of view, what they're suggesting is a disaster for all of us. So I could categorize it as being the equivalent of a doomsday. That's the bad nightmare dystopia that you don't want, really, folks. You don't want that shit. That's going to be like the kind of imagery from the movie 12 Monkeys. You really want to live that kind of life? No, thank you. We don't want to go there. But as I say, from my point of view, I consider what they're suggesting as a disaster. From their point of view, they would consider it a complete success. And in terms of the generative force of the experience that we call reality, countered, balanced by the force of entropy that gradually causes whatever's created to be transient and fade, impermanence, the generative force just alters the shape of that thing, recycles it, and we get a new creation of something. So the generative force never stops. The entropic force never stops. It's just the entropic force is like pulling things apart. The generative force is reforming them into new shapes. From that system changeover point of view, they are pursuing the entropic principle. They use entropy to create chaos so that they can ride on the top of the chaos, presenting people life rafts of order and security and supposed safety. That's how they recruit people to help them build what they want built. And they can use that entropy to destroy whatever is created by the generative force. And they basically convert that generative energy to their use like a tool. It's a resource. So from their point of view, using that entropic energy to create their new vision of the future is a success. To me, it would be a disaster. But there's this kind of concept that it's a black and white result and it's going to be one or the other. And evil always seems to get a more complete success. I was listening to James Corbett sort of mentioning similar kind of points about this. For a lot of people, they perceive evil as always having the higher probability of winning, and if they do win, it's going to be like a complete success. They'll get everything, or in terms of the kind of doomsday scenario, they will destroy everything. Whereas I think the reality is that their result is a final result. I think somebody did mention in the chat earlier something about final solution. Their result is potentially a final result because that entropic principle requires linear progression. The generative force doesn't require linearity, if that's even a word, or a linear progression, because it's constantly transmuting and reforming and creating new stuff. Doesn't need to be linear in any way at all. But for the entropic process to do what it does, there is a linear principle to it. Things gradually degrade and fall apart, and their energy gets distributed elsewhere. And it requires that process of time. The generative force brings something into being, and then the dimension of time gradually erodes that thing until its shape, its energy gets converted into something else by the generative force. So the point I'm trying to make, from the bad people's point of view, I call them bad people, to them, getting that kind of evil doomsday win is a success. But to me, I'm looking at what they're trying to get to, and I'm thinking, well, that's just a dead end, mate. If you do actually succeed in what you want, then there will be no mankind left. In effect, you are isolating yourself from everybody else. In effect, what you're looking at is a genocidal process that leaves you as the only one standing. Like the one-eyed man being the ruler of the world of the blind because he's the only one with the eyeball to see, blah, blah, blah. You're creating a dead-end pathway. it will reach a culmination where there will be nothing else that you can do because you have reached that end solution that you were trying to get to. Whereas with the generative force, oh, sorry, I'll catch you later. It's not even up to the hour yet. With that generative force, it's never-ending reprocessing. It is eternal. There is no final end solution to it because the energy just gets reshaped again into something new. So the concept that we, from my point of view, the people who are looking to not be dragged into the dystopian nightmare bullshit future, from our point of view, there's often what I feel is a misconception that it is a black and white win or lose situation. The enemy will either win everything and they will dominate everything, or the good guys will win everything. And it's very simplistic, like a movie, you know, like Star Wars, the good guys win or the bad guys win kind of shit. Whereas the reality is, I feel, I say reality, it affects reality. The point is, from the bad entropic point of view, if they get their way, then what they're actually going to do is end what we know as everything. They could have a semantic argument that it will be a new form of life or some shit like that. Transhuman, you know, eugenic, fucking controlled population being genetically modified to be whatever it is that they need in that current time in their society. But to me, that is the end of what we are as beings, because we won't carry on beyond that. What we are would have been so radically changed that in effect it's a genocide. But from the generative point of view, from the people who are on the good side, the Jedi Knights, the Jedi generative, but no, separate topic. In effect, it's a never-ending win. That's why, and I know it took me a while to explain it, but that's why I say the win is the winning. We are winning already. We have already won because of the fact that we're still here being able to do what we're doing, even though, yeah, people will get fined, people have been and are going to be arrested, but people can still currently go out and join in a protest. You can still currently go out and look for information like this and talk about it with other people and share it around with each other. And you can organize solutions to problems that you're currently having or you're going to see coming down the line, like some of the food shortage problems, because it keeps shutting down all the meat packing plants and things like that. You can still get together with others and start talking about, don't even necessarily have to get together with others. You can be working on this for yourself, yeah? But you can be working on solutions for how you're going to deal with that problem. That is the generative force carrying on. The eternity of the processing of that energy, changing into a new form. I'm not suggesting that we stand back and do nothing and let them destroy everything that's here and we just try and figure out a new way of doing things in the rubble. I think that's part of the kind of passivity that they want out of the population. You're not getting in their way, so they don't really give a shit. They'll let you do your thing over there in the corner somewhere as long as you let them carry on smashing shit up. So I'm not suggesting that you go completely passive and just let them do all this. But what I'm trying to impart is that perception that when you look at it on that kind of esoteric, generative versus entropic, the principles that are being used against each other and against us, then what they are doing is helping us win. There's a quote that I think is from Sun Tzu. I'd never thought to look it up to check, but the quote, I'm paraphrasing a little bit, goes along the lines of, never interrupt your enemy when they are making a mistake. And I'm saying that again to not suggest that what the government is doing at the moment is making mistakes, that they're just incompetent and all that kind of cloak of fucking bullshit. But what I am trying to point out is that whether they have some conscious reasoning for doing it in this manner, the way they are doing it is as if they are making mistakes that are deliberately meant to wake people up. It's almost like, you know, when if you've ever encountered, maybe you got one in your family, one of those naughty toddlers who likes to do something naughty because they know it gets your attention, and they wait for the moment you get out your chair, and they'll be looking you in the eye while they're doing the something naughty. You know, that you'll say to them, please don't do that. And they'll be like, and they'll carry on doing it. And they're looking at you and they're waiting for that boundary to be broken. And it's as if they're obviously, in a toddler's sense, I know in the development of behavior and personality, that is what they're after. They're wanting to know where the boundary is. They need your help to define that boundary. But we shouldn't be in that kind of relationship with the governments that supposedly are here to be our servants. Why are they doing that kind of manipulative shit to us? But it does seem like they are presenting this as if, one, they're making mistakes, and that's why all this bad shit is happening and people are dying and losing their jobs and the economy's crashing and blah, blah, blah. And two, it's as if they're trying to goad people into waking up. They're trying to prod them awake. Is this a very, I shouldn't say very, a bit qualifying, but is this a subtle attempt to get people to start helping themselves because they know already in advance that things that may be happening in the near future will mean that the supposed government's ability to deal with any shit is going to be pretty much meaningless? So, for example, again, referring to the food shortage situation, if this continues in the next few years, then there are going to be major food shortages across the planet. There already are beginning. Yeah? So how are you going to get the population to feed themselves? Maybe you need to encourage them to all start growing their own food. How do you do that without making them think that you're trying to push them in a certain direction? Will you use a kind of reflective process of presenting to them the fear of the consequences of not taking action, of not looking into or starting growing your own food? So they show you things that, you know, make you think, oh shit, the government's not sending the food trucks to the supermarkets anymore because we're all in lockdown. How are we going to eat? Well, you know, we could grow food like we used to in the old days. And another way of looking at it is they have got the political and economic systems into such, I shouldn't say they have got it into, I think this is a somewhat inevitable process based on the attempt to square the impossible circle, because nature is an impossible circle, and the mind of man tries to square everything. And certainly when it comes to those power game players, the secret societies and groups, the influential groups of mega wealthy, super powerful people, etc., that's what they do. They try to square the circle of the reality of nature around us, including us, and the way we interact with each other, the way we build our societies. Like the classic masons of old, they don't just build any old house, they build the house in a certain way. You know, they don't just build any old city, they build the city in a certain design, because the design benefits the final result. You know, the engineer designing an engine, making it as efficient as possible. And I've argued for years now that this is part of what they're working towards. The whole principle of eugenics is about efficiency more than anything. They want to get rid of people that they consider dead weight in a physical sense, but also in an intellectual and spiritual sense. They think that that dead weight is slowing them down from reaching their godhood or demi-godhood or whatever bullshit is they think they're going to get to. But they're constantly trying to square that circle. And nature is a impossible circle, so you can never ever square it. Why do you think pi goes on for infinity? 3.141, blah, 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 blah. Those numbers are a revelation in the fact that they have no ending. They are infinite. They have infinite division. So, yeah, they ain't exactly in control of everything. They're trying to steer things in a certain direction so that people construct things in a certain shape. But when it comes down to it, you still have the ability and the opportunity to make other solutions. What those solutions look like, I think, should not be restricted by concepts from prior knowledge, from history and things like that. And this goes back to that kind of political structure. I can't remember who it was who said it to quote from. But democracy is a terrible system, but it's the best out of the worst that we've tried. I think it might have been Churchill that said something along those lines, paraphrasing again. But I just thought it's worth approaching the point or the concept, the question, that now we've hit that point where even mainstream celebrities and outlets are starting to really question this craziness for what it is and point at it and go, that's insane, we're not doing that. That means we're well past the Rubicon, we're well over the top of the dam, and we're now at the situation where the whole direction can be swung a different way, to a different heading. In that kind of situation, the fear, the use of the fear fences becomes paramount to the system. If you can have the patience or have the foresight to know that you have already won in the everything that is happening here, you're here having the experience, therefore you've already won. Yeah, you have already won. So whatever fears they present to you, you will be able to see beyond them, because you know that it is just a fear that is a signpost on a pathway. Fear is the signpost that tries to make you choose a direction that benefits whoever it is that wrote the sign. Love is the pathway itself. Yeah, so they'll keep planting signposts in front of you saying, go the other way, abandon hope to all who enter here, and turn back, and whatever else. Yeah, there might be a few Wile E. Coyote signs saying free food this way. Yeah, they'll use temptation as well as fear, but fear is the main driver. But I think it's worth reiterating points like that now, because I think we are at a major turning point. Certainly as we go into winter, into this next flu season, into this supposed season of twindemic, which seems to be being kicked off just around the anniversary of the other thing to do with twins, those two big towers that fell over magically. Well, I shouldn't say fell over, because they fell down, straight down, in a shower, like they were exploding. I thought about doing an episode tonight just talking about 9/11, but I've done so many over the years. And there's a few bits of new information and, news about some of the legal cases that are being presented, but really the situation's still the same. It's still vitally important in relevance and context to the agendas and narratives that are happening now. But what is happening now with the COVID lie is far more important and relevant than just talking again about 9/11. Yeah. So anyway, I'll leave it at that. Hopefully I made somewhat sense for you. But I'm sorry, Gary had to disappear. I often ask him before we start as well. It's like, is there anything in particular you want to talk about tonight? And he's like, no, I'm happy to talk about whatever. He did suggest talking about some of the more ancient mystery questions, which I know we've covered before. Maybe we cover them again a bit more now. There's still information on those subjects coming into the news on a regular basis. Yeah, that again, to me, is another one of those confirmations that you have already won, because the generative force has not stopped. Think about it. This system looks for endings. It looks for solidity and permanence, and those things don't exist in this reality. Everything is permeable by something. Nothing is permanent. All these things are constantly being changed over time. Our perception of time affects that, obviously. But oh, sorry, Dino. I was coughing at you.
Right, mate, no worries. I'm just looking how they're setting it up, ready for the second wave and lockdown, man. We've Bolton apparently 500 new cases. Spain's running away with it.
Cases.
Yeah.
Not deaths, not even hospitalizations. No, it's just we tested you and you once had the cold in your life, at some point in the last however many years.
That's what annoys you, you point these things out to people on face faster than that, and it don't sink into the head. It's like, they changed deaths to cases.
Yeah.
Cases mean nothing. Absolutely nothing. People aren't dying with it. Yeah. I think it's something like 0.0001% of death.
Which means 99.999% of people survived.
Yeah.
And yet they're closing down the whole economy based on that death rate. What?
We got Spain today, 12,183 new cases.
What's the current?
Go on.
Well, I was just wondering what the current population is in Spain. Don't remember.
12,183.
No, I mean total population.
That'll be sarcastic.
They just take multiple photos of those people.
Yeah.
Try to pretend there's millions. There's only 12,000 of them.
Yeah. Another one there as well. Government are offering £450 per head to take the contravenous. I keep calling it that. Coronavirus test. And another one that just, where have I got it? I've lost the bugger. Where's it gone?
I just mentioned as well, because Dottie just put in the chat, Israel is going to try and F over Iran again after getting some of the Arab nations to open relations with them, because they did recently sign new sort of deals with like the UAE, isn't it, and Bahrain, I think. And then as well, I'm not sure if they started yet. I heard mention of maybe next week, I think it starts. They're going to have another lockdown in Israel. So they are going into a lockdown.
Yeah. And when it is as well, Cookie, it's a very significant time for locking them down. Yeah. A very significant time.
I wonder, what particular dates it is on the Jewish calendar. Because there may be very definite connections.
I posted a video in the Skype. It's an American guy, ex-forces. I've watched him for many years. His information's been pretty bang on. He was on about, he's got, in that video, he says all the dates and everything, what it signifies and everything, man. He's always been really good with his info. I'm just trying to find it now. I can't remember his name. My head's not working proper.
It's been a bit like that this last week. Well, I've been feeling, just bunged up, which is affecting my general thinking processes and observational abilities, because I'm just, it's not anywhere near as bad as it was last week. Last week it was just like fucking sinuses coming out the front of my face. There you go. Survival rate. Belgium 99.944%, and on it goes. All of them are over 99%, and yet they're claiming these kind of justifications to close down entire economies and blah blah blah. It's just fucking ridiculous.
They've got a new vaccine as well. I've lost that. I'm going to share a link, but I've lost it. It's a nasal one. So it's going to be like a spray up your nose, the vaccine, instead of injecting you.
Yeah. That was certainly... I've got to screen share this. I don't often sort of go back to... Hang on, find the right tab. I don't often go back to doing news article screen sharing once I've finished doing my ranting, my monologue. But Taz has just shared this, and I thought I've got to show that, because that's so... Look at the guy's face. I'm going into your brain. I'm going to scrape the snot off the top of your brain. Anyway, sorry, it's on BBC website. Coronavirus, Israel to impose 3-week national lockdown. 3 weeks? Really? 3 weeks?
That's a strange number, isn't it?
Yeah, they said that to us. Oh no, they told us 2 weeks, wasn't it? Yeah.
Yeah. Why is it when you want something you can't find it?
Because you're looking for it.
Yeah.
Stop looking for it and then it will appear. Yeah, the master does not seek the student. The master just waits for the student to appear. Yeah.
They'll probably come in 2 days.
I know there was a lot of other really, really cool memes that have been shared around recently. That one will do to start with. Yeah, I in my ranting, I hadn't mentioned at all about the COVID marshals, apart from my kind of little silly commentary about the COVID cops. Because I was thinking, after I heard the announcement, I was thinking, like, are they going to start a new TV show? Call it COVID Cops. And it'll all be about, like they do with that kind of, what was it called? Benefit Street. Where they take the worst cases in the country and they present it in such a way as it's like, this is what they're all like. And they'll have some person who's like really sort of over the top, shouting about not wearing a mask or something, and the poor COVID cops will be like, we're just trying to help you, sir. We love you. We want to care for you. We do. And then that'll be put on TV as like COVID cops. Yeah. Anyway.
I'd like to know what they're supposed to do, though, because they have absolute no powers, do they?
From what I read, no, they're going to have no judicial powers whatsoever. They literally just busybodies in a yellow jacket.
Even police have spoke up about this, saying, like, I think it was Chief Super. He's turned around and said, what's the point? You're just wasting taxpayers' money, but when they're absolutely useless because they can't do it.
If anything, I predict that it will create more work for the police. And I'm not making any suggestions in any way whatsoever. I'm just speculating based on, available information and probabilities and whatever, that they will get more kickings in the streets by having some kind of confrontation with someone and that means they're going to end up tying up police time with dealing with people that they've triggered in some way, or they bullied in some fashion or whatever. And it really is the brown shirts. Yeah, maybe not quite, because the brown shirts were voluntary, weren't they? So initially, anyway.
Yeah.
But the fact that they're offering quite a good wage, not massive, but certainly good considering the current economic climate and availability of work for all the people that have now been made unemployed thanks to the lockdown bullshits. Yeah, this is just like a smack in the face for a lot of people. It's like, we'll destroy your job, we'll destroy your economy, but here you go, you can come and work for us telling other people what to do.
It's grade 1 pay, isn't it? Same as a teacher. It's absolutely scandalous.
Yeah, when they have no powers to do nothing about nothing. They're just going to walk around the streets tutting at people. You can do that already for free.
For all that, sorry, Cookie.
That's right.
He's called Roy Pottereka. Roy Pottereka.
Right.
He's he gives where's StreamYard gone now? Videos in sidebar there. He gives a lot of dates on what's going on in Israel and all that. 20 hours ago he posted that. Funny how you should mention it. But a lot of... Go on.
Well, I was just taking more notice because the fact of them announcing a lockdown again, that was the main thing.
Yeah.
I know. Oh, I recognise him, yeah.
He's been on
YouTube for years.
Yeah. I've watched him, I think, about 9 years. I've watched him.
So it gets a little bit too sort of
deep.
Almost right. Well, no, I was going to say it's almost right-wing Christian for me. There's certainly a lot of that kind of element to the stuff he's talking about.
Mm.
There you go, just so people viewing can see it. It's a video on the Roy Pottereka channel titled Israel shutting down over COVID during Rosh Hashanah.
I'll put link in Skype as well for Taz.
Go and have a listen to what he's got to say, folks, if you want to. I'll put the link in the chat box as well. So people can find it.
He's not a Trump. I won't say he's against him, but he's not. He doesn't blow his trumpet for Trump. He thinks he's same as us. Really, he's playing the game, isn't
he? Yeah.
But he's just done one on the tunnels and everything today.
Right.
He's just done a speech, Trump. All the trafficking and everything.
There's a lot of that I just don't believe, to be honest, sir.
Yeah.
I think a lot of it is engineered for electioneering reasons.
Yeah.
Like I saw just the other day they were pushing the story round again about him going on a chemtrail plane.
Yeah.
Yeah. That story is a few years old. Yeah, I know, because again, it was one of the ones that we covered at the time when it first came out. And it's highly questionable, it's highly dubious that he said anything at all about chemtrails. He was viewing a train, one of their test development planes that uses the ballast tanks. Yeah, so was it actually a chemtrail plane? There is no evidence in that video clip that those tanks are connected to vents in the wings or anything like that. It's just inside the fuselage of a plane where you can see tanks. Yeah.
Yeah.
And there's no clear audio recording anyway of what he's saying when he's looking round. So the articles that I've seen of people claiming, oh yeah, Trump went round a chemtrail plane and claimed that he was going to do this, that, and the other about the chemtrail. It's bullshit.
Yeah.
It's electioneering manipulation. He's
Honestly,
trying to garner votes from the kind of skeptic conspiracy theorist community, to
Yeah.
use some deviant labeling.
that falls perfectly with what I was going to say next. The one he did, I think it was yesterday, a speech, sort of like political selling himself speech. Honestly, you'd have thought he was just sat reading off the internet. Honestly, he mentioned almost everything on the conspiracy side. Honestly, he was like, whoa, what's going on here? And you've got them all like, yay, look at Trump. I'm like, grow the fuck up.
He's got a marketing team that's worked all that stuff for him.
Oh yeah.
I don't think in and of himself, I don't think he's really got much knowledge or interest in some of the stuff like we'll often talk about. He couldn't give a crap about that kind of stuff. But he's got a marketing and a research team that say to him, like, here you go, sir, here's your speech that you requested. We've included all the right key phrases to appeal to all the right demographics that you're trying to recruit. This is going to get you X percentage number of new voters, potentially. Boom, job done.
Yeah.
I think he's played the game right from the beginning in terms of recruiting. I'll call it the conspiracy genre, just for ease of a singular label. He's had his team working on marshalling that side of the population back into voting. He's drawn them back into participating in their politics, and he's basically used it as extra political weight, political muscle.
Yeah, because he's more or less pushing this, not in the same terms, but the Nisara Jisara. He's more or less pushing that now, Trump.
And I pretty much guarantee you that even if he doesn't specify a date, but he will give suggestions that it will take place after the election. Yeah. Guarantee you, mate. It won't be happening like next week. No. It'll be sometime next year. So you got to elect him into office, otherwise he won't be able to get it sorted for you. It's utter fucking bullshit manipulation.
Yeah, of course it is. He's a businessman at the end of the day, isn't he? You know what I mean? He's a shady one like that.
It's horribly cynical as well in the way that they play on people's desires and hopes, etc. Yeah. In the current situation we're in, where for so many people they're literally so desperate, and there they come saying that kind of shit to manipulate them just to get them to vote in a system that their vote is pretty much meaningless anyway because the people are selected. So what is going on here? This is just like a theatre of psychological torture. Yeah, I don't want any of that shit.
The thing is, though, he's doing it in the conspiracy world now, and they're dumb. I've got to say this, they're dumb enough to fall for it, even though they look at this sort of stuff.
Yeah.
What's going on? Am I in a Twilight Zone or what?
There is, unfortunately, a truth to the kind of demographic that gravitates around things like conspiracy theories, the way they are at the moment in the media. I remember me and Jeff C and other people have talked about this for the past few years. They trendified conspiracy theories. Once they trendified it, they turned it into a commodity mass production resource. So you had all the worst elements of the commercialism of, the just outright vulturist kind of attitude. And people don't give a fuck if they're ripping you off or exploiting you. They'll tell you any old shit you want to hear about conspiracy theories just so they can get the dollar out here, yeah? They'll rip off the poor old grandma by convincing them that they can sell them this concoction that will cure them of something or whatever because they've got this conspiracy theory about stuff. Yeah. They've really, I know it wasn't exactly perfect in the old days or anything like that. I'm not trying to suggest that, but I'm just trying to point out how certainly within the last decade, maybe decade and a half, when was the Cass Sunstein paper? It was the mid-noughties, wasn't it, I think? So for about the last 15 years, they've been building this up to the point where conspiracy theories are not the extreme fringe topic that they used to be. Back in the 90s, late 80s, early 90s, when I started getting more into that kind of subject matter, you really were the 1 in 100 that was interested in those subjects, yeah? Hardly anyone wanted to know. If you mentioned certain things, they'd just be like, oh, you're just talking craziness, mate, fuck off. Whereas over time, now, it's trendified. You know, it's got to the point where there are literally thousands of channels on YouTube that just pump out conspiracy pulp fiction. You know, there's not even any good theory in what they're presenting. It's just, oh, did you ever hear about this crazy thing? Oh, it might be weird sheep. It might be alien zombie sheep. It's just any old dross. And then they stick a monetization on that channel. They sell merchandise. They sell books that are basically written by algorithm, by a piece of software to ghostwrite it, to just fill up some pages with some waffling shit that is meaningless. And they sell that to the punters. And oh, your world will be better if you buy my products. And it's just crap. It's not, I've maybe been a bit OG pedantic, but it's not what used to be called a conspiracy theory. It's just paranormal and unusual, weird event things, kind of suggestions and questions. And let's, stick $1 on that.
I think it's 9/11 really that blew it out, really, wasn't it?
Yeah.
That's what brought most people into digging. When they've been digging on 9/11, obviously other things come up. Other things.
You could call it kind of like the second wave of JFK.
Yeah.
In terms of how they manipulated the idea of conspiracy theories. When 9/11 happened, they knew there would be a certain percentage, a certain demographic of the public that would not buy the official bullshit story, that would start looking for evidence and connections and joining the dots and all that kind of conspiracy theories. So they knew they would need to be in place and ready to co-opt, appropriate, manipulate, steer all that interest, all those questions in diffusing directions, misdirections. And it's built up to the point now where it's trendy to be a conspiracy theorist. It's fucking, it's like back in the day we fucking used to, you still got it now. When I grew my hair long, and then, you'd encounter somebody at a concert or a gig or something, and they'd got short hair. They'd obviously only just sort of got into the music, but they'd have that attitude of like, oh yeah, it's fucking great here. I know everything about this genre, mate. So, how long have you been listening to the music? Oh, I bought an album last week. I thought it was great. Now I know everything about it. It's fucking like with conspiracy theories, For a lot of people now, they've never actually looked at the books, the documentation. They've not, in effect, put in the hours of work of listening to podcasts, lectures, presentations, and sat there and thought about things for themselves. No, they've just heard somebody else say it on a video, and then they go along and say, hey, folks, listen to this conspiracy theory. It's fucking aggravating, which is what the system wants. Yeah. I'm glad that more people are getting into it, but I'll repeat what I've said that's applicable to so many other things as well. There is no magic bullet. You cannot just suddenly know everything overnight and think you're a fucking expert on something. Take your time, put in the time and actually build the muscle, learn the subject matter. Yeah, if it's something that's got complex details to it and a lot of jargon and whatever, then obviously you're going to have to learn some of that to be able to actually look at the information you're being presented with and have any comprehension of it. If you don't put in that effort, then you're just talking shit, basically. Like, you know, it's great to tell stories to each other. That's good. I sort of do that kind of thing. The way I present what I do is approaching it from, oh man, it's been years since I said it. Like back in the day, I used to say this, from a bardic tradition where the information is imparted through oral communication. You know, I'm not playing instruments and dancing and shit like that. I'm just talking to you about things. But that exchange can be presented in a story format. As long as it still gets the information and the message across, it doesn't matter that you were using a fictional story to explain what you were trying to say. Yeah? You know, I'm quite happy more people are getting interested in the stuff, but I suppose it's a usual bugbear for me. I hate the way the truth is diluted and polluted by the commercialization and selfish acquisitiveness of people's greed. Greed that's been put into them by the system itself.
It's this fact checker as well, man. It's one of Bill Gates' little fucking toys in it. Completely tells them exactly the opposite of what it really is.
Yeah.
It does your head in. It's under everything. Fact check. And that COVID shit as well, under every bastard video. It really gets on my nerves, man.
I wouldn't be surprised if somebody hasn't already come up with an app to do it, but whether they can fact check what you are saying live as you say it. So you know, like on some of the platforms, especially on the phone, you know, if you're using a mobile technology, the way some of the apps work, and you can be watching somebody's live video stream, and you can do things like send emoticons, so you'll see like a shower of hearts flow up the screen and stuff like that. Yeah, they're working a fact-checking app that while you talk, it'll put like little green ticks or red X's next to what you're saying. So like if I say Bill Gates is a cunt, it'll probably put a little red X. Yeah.
I know it does it now as you're posting and all that.
Yeah, it does on your text. Yeah.
My posts aren't appearing for about an hour.
Yeah.
On Facebook, and same when people post, it takes sometimes a day before I'll see it now.
Yeah.
Proper shadow banning everybody. Did you see the photograph of the Victoria police station I've put in Sky?
I may have done, but
have a look and tell me what's wrong with it.
Is it the one with the pentagram?
No.
I don't know. Then you'll have to.
It's the photograph of the Chinese flag flying on the Victoria police station.
How long ago was it? Because
it's only about an hour ago or something like that. Maybe a little bit less.
Oh right, maybe it's because I've had that image open for so long that I haven't seen what the latest post is.
It's it's a couple of hours ago. About 1855.
Right, 1 second. Entertain yourselves for 2 seconds, 2 minutes, whatever. Did you say 1812, like the overture?
Hang on. I'll redo it. It's right at the very bottom again. I've just reposted it.
Oh man, now I'll have to scroll all the way back down again.
Sorry.
Just grab and drag the blooming scroll by, it's quicker. Oh right, bloody, I see what you mean. Hang on, I've got to screen share that. Could that be a Photoshop though?
No, it's real. It's actually I'll see if I can find the actual news thingy. It's from the Herald of, it's an Australian newspaper, the Herald.
Yeah.
They've covered it. They're actually calling it communist and that. China's not taking over, they're already here, stuff like that. See if I can find it again. I did have it somewhere. Actually, you numbnuts.
I'm looking at that. That's not. You can't exactly call that half mast, can you?
No,
But it's not quite all the way up at the top, is it?
it's like 3/4, isn't it?
Yeah. So I wonder what the fuck going on. Is it because in the line of sight, the Chinese flag has to be seen to be slightly above? Maybe, and the fact that the Chinese flag is bigger. Don't know. It's just that seems weird as well. The fact that it's not properly at full mast.
I think I found it. Yeah, I found it. It's the Herald Sun. Surrender Victoria Police raise the flag of Communist China. No need for Communist China to invade. Victoria's police station have already raised the dictatorship's flag over a police station in a heavily Chinese suburb. And guess who came to cut the cake to celebrate the dictatorship birthday? Why, it was Gladys Louis, yeah, one of them Chinese names. The Liberal MP tied to China's propaganda arms. Joint out your mouth, do you'll speak better. My editorial from Bolt Report. There's a couple of YouTube videos with it. I'll re-put link in again inside. That can post it.
Just to make a comment on this one of the images shared amongst us on the Skype, sir. But the fact that it's a Hello Kitty mask. Hello Kitty. It may take quite too much to try and explain what I mean with this, but Hello Kitty is that kind of corporate brand marketing manipulation that appropriates your child's mind at a young age and is part of how they form it in a certain direction that is tied to a commercialist environment, a commercialist system. Some people would argue that that's simply capitalist marketing. They're selling products that people want. But no, I think there's far more to it than that. But this is just so wrong. I mean, the one on the left looks like he's probably only a couple of months old. She.
Yeah.
And they got a fucking mask on her. That's just sheer insanity.
I just couldn't believe it when I seen that. I was just shocked. It's like there's a will. Well, he says it above, doesn't he? He just says it clear enough above. Has it gone mad or what?
Enough is enough. No means no. This is just, you've got more chance for a child to be struck and killed by lightning than they have of even catching and getting ill from the bullshit, let alone the illness killing them.
I'm right in saying their lungs are smaller, weaker, so that is obstruction, clean, fresh.
Yeah.
So it's like they're going to be getting an even lower amount of oxygen into their bloodstream.
Yeah. At a highly critical phase when their brains are growing rapidly, so they need that oxygen in there. And at the same time, the immune system needs samples of bad stuff to learn from. So if you block them ever experiencing general exposure to the environment, then they will forever have weakened immune systems. So this is them trying to breed a generation of children that will be reliant on their supposed technology, the vaccine technology. Because I know it's not going to show me because of the way Skype is these days, but remember a few weeks ago showed the image of the immune system was a conspiracy theory. Yeah, we don't believe those silly things anymore. And it's that kind of meme image of the mother with the daughter sort of explaining, like, why you have all the vaccines now. Yeah, that's about right, isn't it?
It's getting beyond the joke now, isn't it, Bob? It's just...
Yeah.
I mean, I don't go out much, but the main reason I'm staying now is I can't be arsed with it.
I wondered about this image that he put out, because this is exactly what I thought as soon as I saw the image of him. I thought, okay, you're making a fucking deliberate political manipulation article, puff piece about you baking a cake for your mate Warren Buffett because he's just made tons of money out of you two running this scam on the world. But to use this kind of setup where you present all the public this opportunity to put whatever message they want in that space, that's really, mate, talk about Achilles' heel, or I should more rightly say hubris. His own hubris. He's so fucking arrogant that thought never crossed his mind. But now for everyone out there, I suggest, rip this image and write whatever message you want in there. This cake is made entirely out of my own poo. I'm going to be making children eat it later.
He's probably sat there with a computer with his Dutch eggs on full speed going through alt posts.
I'm going to stop sharing silly pictures now, because otherwise it will just keep getting sillier and sillier. I think I'm going to...
action of them, innit? I'm seeing it, the reactions.
Yeah. I'm going to wind it up at that. My nose is still... feels like it's like 5 times bigger than it should be. So I'm going to give me voice a rest. I know Dinny was moaning that I was talking too much again, but then Dinny always moans that I talk too much because Dinny's just a cunt. In the best, I mean it in the best possible way. But yeah, I think I've talked enough. I'm going to give me voice a rest. Thanks to everyone that was joining in the chat. I'll try and say hello to people that joined in after I was saying the last lot of shout outs, but let me just see how far I can scroll, how much it will show me. Hello, Nick GB, hello. Trump is playing 5D chess. Jamie Howe, hello. Uni Black Sister, hello. Yeah, you're right, mate. It's not like voting matters. It doesn't. Maybe in smaller elections and, local elections, things like that, it may work. It may make a bit of a difference, but in the big boy elections, nah. Your vote is meaningless. James Owen, hello. And I know I've said hello to you. Hive Mind Concussion, hello. Sheeple are handing this over to Jesus. Maybe. But are you going to be pissed if it's Allah that turns up? Or maybe Buddha. Yeah. Vishnu. Everybody's saying it's going to be Jesus coming soon. It's like, well, what are you going to do if it's one of the other guys that turns up?
Stewie's just on about there's a meeting next, what's it, in a couple of weeks in Manchester. Just saying that I'll put my email in there, Stewie. If you email me, we can sort something out.
Road Penguin Scotland, hello. Isn't there another meeting in London this weekend as well?
Yeah. Oh, that's another one as well. It's actually spilled over into Jerusalem now as well.
Oh, cool.
It's either the police just down tools in Jerusalem, literally down tools, and stood and watched. They had no choice. There's I reckon there's over 1 million, easy, walking through Jerusalem. There is a a little video in there somewhere.
Foxtrot, hello. I'm not going to try and say your whole name. Foxtrot will do. I'm still scrolling down, sorry. Try and scroll quicker. New being, hello. I probably said hello to you earlier, but hello again. Alan McVicker, hello. Oh man, the trip home, hello.
Talk about trips, it's that time of year, isn't it?
Yeah, it's going to be soon. Yeah. Well, maybe depending on where you live and what the weather's like in your area, but yeah, it's about the right time of year when the weather turns colder. You start to get just the first beginnings of frost, maybe that kind of crystalline effect in the early morning when the dew is still on the long grass, and you get all those little crystalline reflections which look really good when you've had a few mushrooms. But yeah,
There's a few videos knocking about already from around here.
Yeah, cool.
Have you had fly ago?
Despite the lockdown.
Have you had fly ago?
I have tried smoking it. Yeah, I've never tried ingesting it.
What do you reckon? Is it worth a dabble or what? Because they're round here, you see, and then they're like, fucking, ooh, they're massive, mate. You can sit on them.
I think there is a definite difference between the effects from inhaling and ingesting, because of the way it gets into your system. Obviously, it has a different effect. Yeah, but I tried powdered. It was dried, powdered, and you'd break it up and put it in a little tube pipe and smoke it. Huh?
Right, so if I get some of them, I dry them, I crush them up, put them into like a pump action aerosol, and take it on thingy. So police pepper spray, I can spray them back with that.
Maybe. But yeah, I found it to be pretty much just like a rush effect more than anything else. That's why I didn't really bother with them after that, because it's sort of like, I prefer the psilocybin effect that gives you the psychotropic kind of effect. Yeah, you get the ability to move in and out of an altered state of consciousness with psilocybin, whereas I found with it's muscovine, as far as I remember, in the fly agaric. With that, it was just like a super buzz rush. You get a bit of I got like sparkly lights and wobbly stuff. That was about it in terms of like visual effects and that kind of element to it. But the mental element to it, it was literally just like a buzz rush. It was just like a woo, and that was about it. Psilocybin, I think, is much better. It's much more beneficial. You can learn a lot more with psilocybin use. But like I say, I never tried ingesting fly agaric, and I think the effect would be different if you're ingesting it. But I would put out the warning: be very careful with that stuff, folks. Be very careful with it, because it can be deadly. This is something that you don't mess about with it.
It's something like fucking an eighth of a gram or something that you have in it. Not even that. It's just a little bit.
What I had was probably an eighth of a cap, and the cap wasn't a big one. It was only probably a few inches across. That had been dried out, and then we, cut it up, broke it up, etc. So, yeah, it wasn't a very large dose at all. Probably a gram, if that I had.
I'll see if I can find pictures, but honestly,
let me find.
I got told.
Dinny's telling me I've got to show a picture that he sent me. So,
I got told sort of a bit of false information about the fly agaric, saying they were poisonous to touch and all that crap.
Oh yeah. Sorry, man. I looked at that earlier when he sent it me as well. I thought, I'll show that later, and I'd forgotten about it. So, thanks, Dinny, for reminding me. Yeah. Boris says 2 of you need to get lost. F off. There's no more room for you anymore. Snow White and the 6 dwarf. No, it'd be the 5, wouldn't it? Snow White and the 5 dwarves. Can't even count now. Yeah.
Mentioning Boris, there's the what's it as well, isn't it? The human rights. He's on about changing that.
Yeah.
And it's very funny that Trump's just done the same as well. He wants to come out of the he wants to change the constitution over to the UN human rights treaty.
The UN. Oh, I wonder why.
Yeah.
Maybe it's connected to that Agenda 21, 2030 crap. Yeah. Right. Well, if I missed you out in the chat room, sorry, I was trying to say a quick hello to everyone, but thank you for joining in. If you have done, it's not a requirement that the chat room is there. If you want to join in and chat with other people. Mascara Snake, hello. But I'll leave it at that because my nose is telling me I've got to stop talking crap now. So always follow your nose. Should be back on Wednesday night, Reality Chat channel. As far as I know, anyway, Pete's going to be available and doing the Wednesday night. And please check out Steve Tagoose on Thursday night on his channel, Steve Tagoose channel. And he'll be doing the mystery show at 8 p.m.
Looks all right this week, Cookie. I can't remember what he's called, but he's got an Irish guy on, Raconteurs News this week.
Raconteurs, yeah.
Yeah, I can't remember what
most nights, isn't he? Is he still doing like a broadcast every night?
No, he cut it down because he said like Mondays. We were on morning, weren't we, in chat room? Because obviously this is on a Monday, so we stopped doing Mondays. He only does Tuesdays and a Friday night sometimes.
Cool.
Ben Gilroy.
Yeah, I know. He was involved in a lot of the water rights protests, I think, in Ireland. Yeah. Cool.
Cheers for that, Carl.
Check that out tomorrow night. That'll be tomorrow night, won't it? Well, Tuesday. Yeah. Check that out on the Raconteurs News, and folks, we'll see you again soon. Don't believe all the bullshit. Keep on thinking before they make it illegal, which will probably be soon. The way things are going, it could be quite soon. Yeah. And if you get the opportunity, you don't have to conflict with people, but just stand your ground. No means no. Get on with your life. Just keep on keeping on. It's a cliched phrase, but I think, it gets the point across. We'll see you again soon. Thanks for joining in, and thanks to Gary again for hanging around. We'll see you Wednesday. Good night. Cut choose. Click the button.